Okay, so out of nowhere, a 20-point peace plan for Gaza has just dropped. And listen, it's the most detailed proposal we've seen in months, but it comes with a massive catch. So let's get right into it and break this thing down.
So this just came out. The White House, working with Israel, has put this incredibly detailed plan on the table. We're talking about the most concrete, high-stakes proposal we've seen to end the war in Gaza. And as you can imagine, it's already sending massive shockwaves through the entire region.
But here's the thing, right? With all these competing interests, with such a deep, historic conflict, can something like this actually work? That's really the million-dollar question we're going to dig into. All right, let's start with the basics. What exactly is this proposal? Well, it's a formal agreement put together by U.S. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's not just about a ceasefire. It lays out a whole phased approach for the entire future of Gaza. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's actually in this thing? It's a pretty complex 20-point plan, but you can really boil it down to three main phases, all in sequence. The goal? To de-escalate, then disarm, and finally, to rebuild.
Yeah, the whole thing is built on these three steps. First up, you've got an immediate ceasefire, and that's tied to a huge exchange of hostages for prisoners. Then, step 2 is the complete disarmament of Hamas and the withdrawal of Israeli troops. And finally, step 3 is about setting up a totally new system of international governance for Gaza.
So, that first phase is all about moving fast and going big. All the fighting would stop immediately. Then, get this, within just 72 hours, Hamas would have to release all 48 remaining hostages. And in return, Israel would release thousands of Palestinian prisoners. There's also a grim part of this, an exchange of bodies, 15 Palestinians for each hostage.
And to give you a sense of the scale here, among the prisoners Israel would release are 250 Palestinians who are currently serving life sentences. I mean, that is a massive concession, and it's a really critical piece of this exchange, obviously designed to get Hamas to even consider the deal.
Okay, so after the exchange, we move to phase 2, which gets to the core military stuff. The plan demands the complete dismantling of all of Hamas's military infrastructure. We're talking everything, including that huge network of tunnels. While that's happening, Israeli troops would pull back and an international security force would move in. But, and this is a big but, Israel would still get to keep what the plan calls a security perimeter presence inside Gaza. You can bet that detail is going to be a major point of contention.
Then there's the question of who's in charge after the fighting stops. The plan suggests a temporary governing body called the Board of Peace, and who's leading it? President Trump and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. So you've got two huge Western political figures overseeing Gaza's reconstruction. Long-term, the idea is that the Palestinian Authority could eventually take over, but only after some major reforms. And statehood? Well, it's mentioned, but only as this vague, distant possibility. And all of this brings us right to the heart of it, doesn't it? This incredibly difficult, super high-stakes trade-off that the plan forces on both Hamas and the Israeli government.
You know, for Hamas, this is what's being called a bitter trade-off. Think about it. They're being asked to give up everything, their entire military and all political control over Gaza. And what do they get in return? A bunch of uncertain, long-term political gains for the Palestinian people. It's basically a choice between their own survival as a group and the possibility of a peaceful future for their people.
So if you picture a scale, on one side you have Hamas giving up literally everything that gives them power. On the other side, you have the potential for the Palestinian people to finally see an end to this awful war, get a huge surge in aid, and see billions of dollars in international money to rebuild. The whole thing really comes down to, is one worth the other? But look, Hamas isn't the only one feeling the heat here. Not by a long shot. Prime Minister Netanyahu has to somehow sell this deal to his own government, and that is turning out to be a massive challenge all on its own.
Just listen to this quote from Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's finance minister. He's a really key member of Netanyahu's hardline coalition, and he just lays the opposition out there. He and others have actually published their red lines, and they completely contradict huge parts of this plan. Specifically, they're saying no way to the Palestinian Authority having a role in Gaza, and absolutely no pathway to a Palestinian state, no matter how fuzzy.
So you've got these intense pressures pulling in totally opposite directions. What are the real chances this thing could actually succeed? Let's take a look at how people are reacting so far and what the biggest roadblocks are.
Honestly, the first reactions are pretty much what you'd expect. Hamas is saying they're looking at it in good faith, but, their entire ideology is against disarmament, which is a deal breaker in this plan. Then you got the Israeli hardliners who are publicly trashing the very future this plan is trying to create. At the same time, major Arab nations, we're talking Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they're all applauding it. They're just desperate for the war to end and to start funding reconstruction.
When you step back, what this plan is really trying to do is build a bridge between two worldviews that are fundamentally opposed to each other. Whether it succeeds or fails really comes down to whether they can find some common ground in a place where, let's be honest, there hasn't been much for generations.
And that leaves us with the final, really critical question. Can you really expect lasting peace from a deal that demands total surrender from one side in exchange for a future that's, well, still pretty vague and undefined? That's the question that not just us, but the entire world is asking right now.